In today's Leeds news, Leeds increased Joe Gelhardt asking price, Dan James surgery possibility, a midweek loan watch, Dominic Calvert-Lewin angry reaction, pleases Farke, and rumour mill stories on Nwaiwu and Boga. Morning folks, welcome to the Leeds View, Wednesday the 3rd of December with your Leeds United news. Hope you're all doing well. You can check out last night's podcast with myself, Paul and Jerry. We had a little bit of a look back at the Man City game ahead to the Chelsea game tonight, and we discussed the Guardian article that came out yesterday in a bit more detail. You can get some more detail on that if you want. The new merch is available as well over on Back 4 Clothing. Links are down below in the description. If you want to stick a like on the video, you can. It's an interesting night for Leeds United. There will be a watch along over on bigup.com, and we will have an instant match reaction straight after the game on YouTube. So there's an awful lot of things to keep an eye on tonight. We'll get into a few bits and pieces throughout this news today as well. But we're going to start off though with a story about Joe Gelhardt and his future, not just at Leeds United, but the asking price from Leeds. As we all know, Joe Gelhardt is not expected to be recalled by Leeds United in January, even though there is a recall clause in his deal. And he is expected to remain at Hull City for the remainder of this season in the Championship. Leeds were said during the summer to have an asking price of £5 million. There are some reports today claiming that Leeds wanted £8 million in the summer, but we covered it during the summer and it was £5 million. But that would be a bargain for any side. They are now looking to add goals from midfield. Gelhardt has 9 goals and 3 assists for Hull City this season from an attacking midfield position. And even if you look at the Leeds players last year in the Championship, at this point Gelhardt is even outscoring the players Leeds had. But the stance from Leeds doesn't appear to have changed on Joe Gelhardt, and Leeds will still look, according to this report, to sell Joe Gelhardt come the summer. 12 contributions in 18 appearances has now added a few £1 million to Joe Gelhardt's price tag and may have priced Hull out of being able to afford the player come the end of the season. Journalist Barry Cooper, speaking with Football League World, said that Leeds now want a fee of anything between £8 to £10 million for the 23-year-old in the summer. That could go up if his current form is to be continued throughout the season. Gelhardt said last week when he was being interviewed at Hull that he would be open to staying at the club, as it appears his future at Leeds United is non-existent, at least under the current Leeds United management. That obviously could change, but Hull also do want to keep Joe Gelhardt at the club. He's been one of their most important players this season. His goal contributions have been massive for what they've been doing this season so far. They are under a transfer embargo, so they can't buy the player until that has been lifted, but they are confident that that will be lifted towards the end of the season. Leeds had hoped by putting Mateo Joseph out online that it might increase his market value. I don't think the same was expected from Joe Gelhardt, but that has definitely been the case now. He's only 23, still a player in Joff. You've been saying it for a long time. People will say it's the Championship and not the Premier League, but Leeds currently have 8 Championship players started against Manchester City. So under different managers, under different styles, maybe you can get the best out of him, but he clearly has a manager believes in him right now, and he's doing fantastically well in the Championship. But Leeds will look, by all cases in this report, Leeds will look to try and cash in on him in the summer, and hopefully if he continues his good run of form, they'll get more money than they expected come the summer. And it might even happen in January. Some clubs that might look to try and bring him in January, depending on what situations they're in. There's plenty of clubs in the Championship that would want some goals for the second half of the season. But that's that one. We'll move on. Let's talk about Dan James and bad news yesterday. As I say, bad news from Daniel Farke's press conference yesterday, as Dan James has now been ruled out for at least 8 weeks and may even need surgery on a hamstring tendon. Leeds say that they are hoping to treat the injury conservatively and try and avoid the surgery option, but the conservative option doesn't lessen the amount of time that he will be out. And if he does have to get surgery on the tendon, he's likely to be out for even longer than that. There's also delays expected with the type of player that Dan James is, and the fact that it's a hamstring injury during his comeback and recovery. So he could be out for a little bit of time to come just yet. Farke did point out, though, that this issue is incredibly likely with the type of player that Dan James is, one of the fastest players in the Premier League, and these hamstring injuries do unfortunately happen. But you don't want to see regular hamstring injuries with a player of the speed of Dan James, because they are likely to continue to keep coming back as the players get older. But fingers crossed it won't be too bad and he can get back as soon as possible. But that also leads into possible January transfer window moves, and Daniel Farke leaned into that again yesterday. Good news though, coming into the Chelsea game, Anton Stach has passed his cognitive tests that he has to do as part of his concussion protocol and is available for tonight's game. Whether he starts or not, whether he sticks with Ampadu in midfield with Tanaka and Gruev, or whether he changes tonight remains to be seen, but we'll see how he gets on. Again, everyone keeping a good strong eye on that lineup tonight. Let's move on. A very quick loan watch one to get stuck into. Mateo Joseph was an unused sub for Real Mallorca in their 3-2 away win against Numancia in the Copa del Rey. Charlie Crew finally got some game minutes, completed 90 minutes for Doncaster Rovers in their 5-1 win against Chesterfield last night. Decent performance, but it was in the EFL Trophy knockout stages, but great to see him getting some game time. Let's move on. Something that probably went slightly missed at the weekend against Manchester City was a Dominic Calvert-Lewin reaction to being dropped, apparently, according to Daniel Farke. Now that he has shared that with the media, Lucas Mecha had 3 goals in 3 starts at that point, and you don't drop a striker who's scoring goals, especially in the situation Leeds are in right now. But Daniel Farke said that Calvert-Lewin was annoyed at not starting the game against Manchester City, and he actually liked seeing that. Farke explained that he didn't start Calvert-Lewin due to the fact that he'd picked up a little injury before the international break and didn't have a lot of game minutes, and went for the much sharper Mecha instead. After speaking yesterday, Farke said this: "For Man City, he was probably able to start that game. He was probably even a bit annoyed that I didn't start him. Hopefully he was annoyed. He should be like that as a striker, but I want to be a little extra careful given that he didn't have a proper pre-season with us. Apart from the adductor injury since he joined, he's been in every training session. He looks after his body." As I say, everyone will be keeping a good strong eye on tonight's line to see, do we see 2 strikers up front? Will we see Lucas Mecha and Dominic Calvert-Lewin playing together, or will we even see a Joe Pirro go in as a front 2, which would be nice to see? And does Daniel Farke stick with the back 3, or does he revert to type and go back to the 4-3-3 system? It's going to be interesting. The aggressive style will be needed to be seen, and if that man does have the bit between his teeth, he's got 2 goals for Leeds now, both away from home. He's looking for his first Elland Road goal. It'd be nice for him to get that tonight against Chelsea, but we would all hope Daniel Farke makes the right choice tonight and goes with the more positive mindset that everyone has coming out of the Manchester City game, and goes with that 3 at the back, 2 up front, and goes with that much more attacking, aggressive style. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. And as I say, we'll be over on bigup.com later on tonight to discuss that. And we'll chat about it after the game as well on YouTube. But let's get into the rumour mill stuff, because there's a bit of stuff floating around in this one today. More and more names are going to keep popping up the closer we get to the January transfer window. We're starting to probably get a little bit of an insight into potential shortlist players that Leeds may have on their books. And there's been a bit more on this, as Daniel Farke yesterday said again that Leeds will need to look at the January transfer window, especially with Dan James now being out injury. And if the Guardian piece is to be believed, if it is to be believed, I'm not sure that I do believe it, but if it is, they say that Leeds will have money to spend in January as well. And ideally, Leeds will try and get that business done as quickly as possible for once in a transfer window. And let's not drag it out until the very end. There's 2 players being mentioned today. One that appears to possibly be a more longer term target, maybe this summer, and one that could be a shorter term one. The first one is Chibuike Nwaiwu. According to a report from French outlet Top Mercato, they say that Leeds United and PSG are both interested in Wolfsberger AC's Chibuike Nwaiwu. Nwaiwu is a centre-back. He's contributed 6 goal contributions so far this season, 5 assists and 1 goal. And his valuation is said to be in and around £7 million to £12 million, and does have interest from several sides in Ligue 1 in France, PSG being one of them, but there are plenty of others that are said to be keeping an eye on the centre-half as well. He's a centre-back, so not something the Leeds need right now. Maybe it's a longer-term issue for the summer if it's a case that Sebastian Bornau decides to move on from the club and Leeds need to bring in another player. But the report says the Leeds have watched him, but beyond that, there isn't a huge amount of substance to this report. So as of right now, a target, that's probably all it is right now, or someone they've watched potentially being one for the summer. The other one's the more interesting one, and it's Jeremie Boga. According to RMC Sport, they claim that Leeds will move for their summer target, Jeremie Boga, who may now be available after they were told in the summer that he wouldn't be sold by Olympic Nice at that point. According to the report, an incident at Nice has led to the player wanting to leave the club ASAP and may move once the window opens. After losing to Lorient, Nice Ultras came on the pitch and confronted several players, Boga being one of them, and there was an incident where the player was spat at by one of his own fans, and he now wants to move away from the club as soon as possible. And that might open the door for Leeds to get a player that they were rumoured to have interest in during the summer. The 28-year-old winger can play as a number 10 as well as in both wide positions, and has got 2 goals and 2 assists so far in 7 starts this season for Nice. Boga is said to be one name on a series of names on a list of players that Leeds are looking for in the wide areas coming into January. His transfer fee is roughly in around 17 million euros, so about 14.5, 15 million pounds if they were to decide to make a move from him. He was talked about pretty strongly at the beginning of the transfer window last summer, but Leeds were told he's not for sale. End of story, move on. Harry Wilson seems to have dropped off the list right now at this point, so Leeds are still looking for somebody who can play in that wide area. He's more of a right-footed player than a right winger who can come in on his left foot, so it's not exactly a perfect fit, but it could be a direct replacement for Dan James, who's a right footer and plays on the right hand side as well. So Leeds might be looking for a little bit more of a direct player on that side. But yeah, there's going to be a lot more names popping up over the next couple of weeks, no doubt, and we're looking for a 10 ideally and a right winger if we can get them, give us some flexibility in those systems. And whether he goes for number 9 as well, again, there's lots of names being mentioned, but could be more tricky. And if the lads are scoring goals right now the way they are, don't need one. Anyway, folks, that'll be it for me this morning. Back over on Big Up tonight for the match, and then over on YouTube later on this evening for the instant match reaction. You can check out last night's podcast as well if you want it. Outside of that, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.